another day. Today's video is probably something that you never really expected. I may have hinted at it before, but yes, there's another bike in here. I've got a real big decision to make. I know that once the Ducati and the Mongrel, or more so once the Ducati was done, I was going to start on the K100. I like having two projects on the go. The Myco, you can ignore that as being a project. That is just an ongoing thing. It's not really a project, it's more of a labour of love, just a restoration. It's not something I'm particularly focusing on at the moment. But I always knew that the Ducati was nearing the end. So now my decision is, and this is going to disappoint quite a few people, is that I'm going to push the K100 back a little bit, but there is another build to replace it. And this one's going to be a relatively quick build because it doesn't need much to it. It's pretty much a cosmetic job, but it's this. This, as a lot of you may know, is an R100. Lovely BMW badge and that. Do you know what? I've spent a few hours just looking at this, having a once over, and it is in such a good condition. So this bike is a BMW R100, which belongs to a friend of mine, Luca. And Luca has sent me this bike to be worked on. As I said, it is in a remarkably good condition. It is absolutely gorgeous. Now, yes, there's kind of those questions to be made that should we be playing around with the bike in this good condition? A lot of the times I'd say no, I'd say leave it. But what we're going to do to this is not going to be irreversible. Apart from the tank colour, someone's got a 50cc out there, apart from the tank colour, everything else will be reversible. So the beauty about these bikes, and a lot of people will probably tell you this, is if you can see down there, there's a bolt down there, and there is a bolt up here. Same on the other side as well, and obviously the subframe is connected to the swing arm through that rear shock. The wonderful thing about these bikes is that these rear subframes simply bolt off, as you can see, so you can instantly hook up a rear end that changes the whole shape of it. It's not as long as anything like that. It instantly changes the whole shape, and then when you want to, you can put it back together. Beautiful. We're going to leave these rear sets on. I'm not going to start cutting off that frame at all. I'm not going to do a USD fork conversion on that. No, I'm going to keep it as it is. Engine is remarkably clean. Luca told me that there was a bit of coughing and spluttering going on with it. Possibly needed synchronization, possibly needed a compression check on each side just to make sure. But my guess is that it's a bit of synchronizing. Obviously, if your synchronization is off, that's going to lead you to believe that compression and everything is off. But let's have a look. Let's sort it out. Let's work on it mechanically first. Obviously, change the bars and the headlights. We're not putting clip-ons on this. Luca is not one for wanting that position, so we'll put some high rises on this, not as high as what we've got on here, but again, all things that can be reversed as well. And we might even stick a Motor Gadget M unit in there to make the wiring easier, and then we're keeping the original harness in, so we can always put the original harness back on. It just after looking at this now, it's 0.14 of a volt. There's not even 1 volt in this battery. This is one dead battery. Right, that's yeah. I wonder if we'll ever get that back to life. I doubt it.
Right, I've got a freshly charged battery here. That is a huge battery, but I mean the cold cranking amps on these, I think, what, 340 on this? I mean, that is a lead acid battery. Could put an anti-gravity 12 cell in there, I suppose. But let's put this back in there. Let's start it up.
And so that is the R100. Like I said, the K100 will probably be put to one side even more whilst we're kind of looking at the R100, because it is going to be a quick flip. There's a few little things that we need to get mechanically done first. So there's tappet clearance to check, but that's a check and a tiny adjustment. It's just a screw on these. So I have taken this bike out. The brakes, the brakes need looking at. I've since realised that when I came back, the right caliper is actually leaking. There's a bit of brake fluid, and I was wondering why the brakes were pretty much non-existent on the front of this bike. You had to book it in like 2 weeks in advance before you wanted to stop. That obviously being the reason. If your right caliper isn't working, you're solely dependent on one caliper, and only half of that really, because it is a splitter. And obviously brake fluid on your disc is going to make it that extra bit slippery, so that's really not going to help. It is running a bit too rich. I can see from the spark plugs that it's running a little bit too rich, but that's fine. New air filter, let's try doing that first, because my thoughts are it's not been serviced in quite a few years. I think it's about 3, even 4 years, possibly at a push. So new air filter might even sort that out. If not, it's a tiny little thing of just adjusting. So that's adjusting, obviously, the fuel mixture on that. Get it running good. And that's pretty much it on the bike. Mechanically, I think we're all good. And then, as I've said, it's a quick flip, subframe at the back, new tank colour. Let's get the engine painted. Gonna stick to the original forks. Might need a new damper on the front of the fork. Might even just need an oil change. Might be something as simple as that, or just looking at the seals and everything. But that's it. If you want to see more of this bike, and like I said, because it is a quick flip, I don't want to get it out and get the space back in the workshop, we'll just look at that as well as these other builds. But the Ducati, just to get you up to date with that, we have the Ducati back on the table. I had obviously stripped that out, helicoil issue at the front. It was just, in fact, it was the other side. It was the other side. There's a dodgy helicoil there, an M10 bolt. It should have a bolt going straight through the middle, but actually what someone has done is put helicoil each side, drilled out the thread on one of these sides, and so it's a separate bolt going on each side. Not the case of this. You can see the bar going all the way through the middle there. There is no bar here. Wonder why they ever did that. Unless there was something wrong with the thread there, but unless there was a problem with the thread in here, could be. And obviously tapping aluminium is a lot easier than tapping steel, so that could have been why they did that. Awaiting the rims from Excel, the shock from TFX, and obviously the new anodized front forks on that, and as well we'll work on the rear sets next week. Exciting. So until next week, have fun.